Now, today I'm going to be brewing an American brown ale. It's going to be perfect for fall. We're just starting to hit that, so this will be ready in about a month, and it'll be fabulous when the weather starts to cool down a little bit. So what I'm looking for is something that's a little toasty, just a little roasty, and has some nice American citrusy hops in there, just to kind of be super fun and classically American. With just a little bit of body, kind of in that 5.5% range, and I think I've got what I need to do it. So let's take a look at the grain bill. So our grain bill is fairly simple. I'm starting off with a base of RAR 2-row, just like a North American 2-row malt, and that's 77.5%. Then I've got some Munich 10, that's from Gambrinus malting, and that's going to be delicious, and that's 6.5%. I've got 7% each of Crystal 75 and a kiln coffee malt, which is similar to a, this is it right here, it's similar to a pale chocolate malt. And then I also have just a splash here, it's 2% of Carafa Special Type 3 right here, and that's just for a little color adjustment in the finished product, just to get it to around 20 SRM. So now I'm just going to go ahead and mill all this up using my fabulous Monster Mill 3mm Pro and the stand that I've got built for it here. So this hopper extension is great because I've got almost 14 kilograms of malt going on here, and it's going to crush through it. It holds all of it right away. It's going to crush through it pretty quickly. Okay, my strike water is ready. I'm going to be mashing at 66.7 Celsius or 152 Fahrenheit, which would be a good mash temperature for this. We've kind of a nice balance between attenuability and leaving a little body there in the beer, since it is a brown ale. I want to have a little something going on there. So I have the strike water just a few degrees hotter, so hopefully I won't be too low once I'm all stirred up here. Now I'm just going to arrange my lock line so that it creates a nice little recirculation. And so I'm just going to go ahead and set my mash temperature here. Beautiful. And we're going with a 60-minute mash on this. This is a really simple mash here because we just have the one saccharification rest, and then we'll be mashing out later on, and then we're ready to boil. This wort is recirculating quite happily in here. I will mention that I did not treat the water at all, changing the water chemistry. I didn't dilute it with any RO water like I do with some of my beers. All it is straight up filtered water, as the hardness and constitution of our water here in Calgary works really well for some of these darker beers. After 1 hour, this mash is done, so I'm going ahead and setting that temperature up to 75.5 Celsius, or that 168 Fahrenheit range. I'm going to get that up to that temp and let it mash out for probably a good 15 minutes, just to make sure everything is sort of a consistent temperature throughout, and then we can begin to run off and fly sparge. After that 15 minutes of mashing out, it's now time to begin to run off and sparge. So for that, remove the seal, bang bang, remove the thermal oil. I'm going to put the plug in here. Do a little switcheroo with some lids. And I'm going to begin to run the sparge water over here into the mash tun. Once I get that up a little bit, I will begin to run off into the boil kettle here from the mash tun. And let's start to run off here. We are going to be doing a first wort hop, but I do like to let the level get up above this Trying to reach in here, right down here, that nut, because that is the bottom line here for my sight glass. So as soon as the wort level's above that, I can add those first wort hops without getting any of that hop matter stuck in either the pickup tube, which is lower down there, or up in the sight glass. I'm just about ready to add these. So for the first wort hops, I'm going with 21 grams of Horizon hops and 42 grams of Falconer's Flight. And with these, that should give me a really nice balance between tropical and citrus and floral and spicy and stuff. And yeah, I've done this on brown ale before and was really happy with the qualities that it gave me here. And by going with the first wort hop, I'll be able to get all that bitterness out of there, but then it'll also should give me a nice flavor contribution here as well. And bear in mind that this is an amount that I'm using for a 15-gallon batch. So I'm actually filling 3 carboys and then 3 kegs with this. So yeah, let that heat up and do its thing. So we've got enough liquid in there that it is time to flame on. So we've hit a boil. It's going to be a 60-minute boil here, and I'm not adding any more hops until there are 10 minutes left. All right, so we are hitting 10 minutes remaining in the boil, so I'm just going to throw in some super moss there with some of that work from before, as well as the next batch of hops, and that's 42 grams of Horizon and 21 grams of Falconer's Flight this time. And I'm just going to give it, I won't even have to give it a stir. Perfect. Okay, and the next hops will be flame out. Okay, so after that full hour, it's flame out time. I'm going to be adding 42 grams each now of Horizon and Falconer's Flight. And all in, these hops here will be giving me somewhere around 41 IBU, which should help everything balance out really nicely in this beer. Just going to give it a good whirlpool here before I lit it up, and then let it sit for 15 minutes or so. So this is just going to help create a really nice cone of the trub and any hop material and stuff like that in the bottom, so that it doesn't get picked up by the pickup tube. After waiting that 15 minutes, I have set up the plate chiller here, which you can kind of see. There we are. And I'm running off into all 3 of these carboys. Once they're all full, I'm going to get them downstairs onto the fermentation table and ready, hooked up with heat wraps and all that fun stuff, ready for pitching yeast. So my yeast is ready, and these beers are pretty much at the temperature where I want to pitch, around 66 or 67 Fahrenheit. So I'm just giving them a nice solid rousing like this for a minute in order to get them aerated and ready for the yeast, because they're not higher gravity beers, and this those dry yeast packs that I've rehydrated are going to be sufficient. I'm not worried about actually oxygenating this beer, so this will be fine. So now I'm in the process of adding the yeast, and what I have here is USO5. Each carboy is getting, it was 150 mils of filtered water that I pressure canned with my plate chiller, and then afterwards, after it cooled down, I popped in a pouch of USO5 to each of them, let them rehydrate. I had a little stir bar in it so that I could mix them up a little bit if necessary, and I just gave it a couple minutes of mixing, and I'm now adding to the carboys. Perfect. So now I'm going to get these set up with my carboy hoods and blow-off tubes. And here we are, all set up, temperature controllers, probes, blow-off tubes. I'm just going to tape these hoses into the bucket just so nothing can knock them out. And we are ready here for things to start taking off. So we're around 12 hours in after pitching. You can see activity is definitely kicking off here. These are sitting at 68 Fahrenheit, and yeah, we'll be hitting some nice high crowds in here right away. Beautiful. So gravity reading below the meniscus, wow, I am wobbly right now, shows 1057, so we're 2 points high, so I should probably just dump out this beer. Or maybe I'll give it a shot and see how it turns out. And later that afternoon, look at this. Oh, so pretty. Fermenting away happily. They've all climbed up to 69 Fahrenheit, so I'm going to let them sit there, continue to do their thing. So almost a week in here, fermentation is wrapping up. You can see that it's really falling out here. This carboy I just roused up just to kick that yeast up. I've got the temperatures up at 72 Fahrenheit, just trying to get as much attenuation as possible. Forced attenuation test on this brown ale is coming in at 1017, which is a little higher than I'm hoping the actual beer turns out, so I guess we'll see how that comes after fermentation. As fermentation was starting to slow down, I ramped the temperature as high as 72 Fahrenheit and held it there for a few days. And once this appeared to hit terminal gravity, I went ahead and lowered it a couple of degrees in the morning, a couple of degrees at night, just until we got down to the mid-60s. You can see that all signs of krauts and whatnot are completely done and stuff is dropping out, which is really nice. So it's time to get these pressure racked into some corny kegs. Here we are pressure racking, and we're going to be going into corny kegs, which will go into the Keezer, and from there we'll chill them down, gelatin fine, let them sit at least a week, and then pressure transfer into carbonation corny kegs and get them on tap. If you want to see those processes in detail, I've got videos on all of that on the brewing playlist on the channel. Finishing gravity on this brown ale is 1015, so I managed to squeeze an extra couple of gravity points out of that yeast, which is awesome. Looking forward to the finished product. After all those processes, the brown ale's on tap. Let's give her a taste. Yeah, I know. It's dark. Some people might look at this and think, oh, hops and it's this dark. Maybe it's an American porter. But this is not a chocolatey beer. Toasty, yes. A little roasty, yes. Hoppy, for sure. It doesn't quite fit within that whole porter scene, in my opinion. Doesn't do super well in competition when you're thinking about like a brown ale, because typically those tend to be like a lot lighter colored and whatnot. But this is just delicious, and I think it's sort of difficult to pull off that citrus and roast character at the same time without it kind of coming across as like kind of too bitter or something like that, kind of clashing. This just works really well. Got some nice little hops there in the nose, and the Falconer Slight is nice too because it's like it has that really cool blend of like tropical and citrus and different things going on there. So yeah, if you want to have a nice little fall beer, little fall ale, this dark American brown is a great option for that. So hopefully you give it a whirl. Until next time, keep it at 11.